Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm hoping you're answering my questions at home. Allison here. I'm getting ready to teach a workshop, a virtual workshop, but I wanted to offer something with all this talk of what's going on with the virus and how it attacks the lungs. I wanted to offer some simple pranayama work. Pranayama in yoga is really just breath work, simply stated. I'm not a doctor, I'm a yoga teacher, well-trained one, but still I don't want to, I think it's irresponsible when yoga teachers make these radical claims about yoga and how it is the cure-all for everything. That's just simply not true, although I think it's a very, very useful, helpful tool that sort of can sort of merge into all areas of life. That being said, there are some simple techniques, pranayama, that I think, are just good for lung health, lung capacity, which, virus or not, is a great thing. It also is, there are simple, effective pranayama breathing techniques that are also just really helpful in calming and settling, which I think can be helpful. Sorry, you can hear the phone ringing. So I just want to do a couple simple things, nothing crazy. I think pranayama it can be, some of the exercises can be really intense, and depending on you, and if you lend towards anxiety, depression, if you've got lung conditions, then I think you got to take it easy. So we're not going to go very far, and I encourage you to check in with what we do and how you feel. But backstory, some of you don't know this about me, probably most of you don't, I don't talk about it very much. Over 15 years ago, 16 years ago, I had part of my lung removed. So I only have half of my right lung and my whole left lung. Long, weird, crazy, wild story of how that went down, but point being, I had a tumor, and it basically, my right lung sort of collapsed, and so they had to take part of it out. Long story short, I'm all good. But the moral of the story is that I was able, partly because I was young and healthy when it happened, and I still am, that like I was able, for this like sort of empty space where part of my lung was, I was able to fill it with the part of the lung I still had, and really function at full lung capacity. I think part of it was due, like I said, I was young, healthy, otherwise. Part of it is like I've stayed really active in terms of like cardiovascular. I've still been able to run marathons and half marathons. I exercise every day. But I do think part of the exercises they had me do early on, like I had this little machine that I had to inhale in really deeply to get this little lever to go all the way up. It was all about like inhaling and trying to hold it. That's pranayama. And thankfully, about the time I was going through all this, I was diving deep into yoga, and it started to make sense to me that like, there is something to this breath work. Even if you're not healing from like a major lung surgery, it's a helpful way to work with the lungs, as well as to either bring energy up, in some cases we need that, and to bring energy down. And so today I just want to focus on sort of noticing your lung capacity, ability to hold breath for a few seconds, and then we'll work at the end with just calming energy down. So nothing crazy, but I encourage you to check in with how you feel, and if it's not vibing, you will not offend me. We'll stay pretty simple. So find a comfortable seat. I'm sitting on a yoga bolster. And just rest your hands. You can close your eyes if that helps you, or cast your gaze down. And let's just take a few normal breaths and kind of settle in. And I really want you to feel some softening here. So feel the sitting bones, the pelvis sort of rooted on whatever you're sitting on. Sit up tall, lift the back skull, soften your jaw, soften your face. And just breathe normally. Don't do anything special. Just normal breaths like you would normally breathe if you weren't even thinking about it. And so there's a type of breath, a pranayama in yoga. Many of you have heard of it, some of you maybe haven't. It's called Ujjayi pranayama. Ujjayi, sometimes it's referred to as ocean breath, or it actually means victorious breath. And so, called ocean breath, it's sort of like when you put your ear up to a seashell, that like ocean sound you hear. That's sort of the point. You can open your eyes for a second, just in case you're interested. A good way, Gabe, the other owner of the studio, and I, when we teach this in teacher training, a good way to find this is if you just go like this, but then you try to do it without that noise in your throat. So it's that kind of without actually making the noise. And so you're looking for a slight constriction in the throat, little, not a lot. And so it's audible, like you'll be able to hear it. If somebody was sitting next to you, they could hear it, but it's not so loud that like a whole room of people could hear it. So it's something to think about. Again, if you do it and you're like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about, fine, just breathe normal. So close your eyes again. And just find that little tiny constriction of the throat, like there's a little bit constriction of the glottis. So you just breathe in slowly with that constriction. And out slowly with that slight constriction. Just do that a couple times. Again, don't need to have a super long breath, just tiny constriction of the throat. So we'll keep that up, and in yoga, in like a yoga class, sort of the most complicated I often get with pranayama is, we call it samavritti. Samavritti meaning it's just even inhales, even exhales. So you're trying to count the length of your inhale and match that with the length of your exhale. So you can keep that little constriction if you want, no worries if you're not into it. And you pick a length. I would start small, like 3 or 4, maybe 5. And if it feels after a few breaths like, oh, I've got the capacity to have a little bit longer inhale and exhale, then you can count higher, right? 6, 7, 8. The goal is not to have the highest number and you're the winner of breathing. It's just like find a length that works for you where you don't feel winded, right? You should feel like you could do this for a while. So you kind of pick something and try it for a few rounds. So inhale, 1, 2, 3. You could keep going. Exhale, same length, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna go for 6. You go lower or higher. So inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So count slowly in your head. Let's do a few rounds on our own. If at any point you feel like winded or something, then take it down a notch. Take some normal breaths and you know, start smaller. See if you can keep your jaw and your face soft as you do that samavritti or even breath with a little ujjayi or constriction of the throat. And option to add one more little piece. So this is where we sort of work with our capacity. So whatever number you've picked, I encourage you, if you're able, you maybe up that a second or two, see if you can really, really fill. Again, not to be winded, but just enough to get that full capacity. And then we'll introduce what's called a kombucha. Not kombucha, it's not what you drink, but kombucha, which means it's like a pause or a hold. It's a retention of the breath. So we'll find that hold, that retention after inhale, however many seconds that was, and then we'll exhale, same amount of time, and find another little hold at the bottom. The hold's not very long, a couple of seconds. So inhale, whatever number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Do it on your own. So even breath with holds. Again, if you feel winded, take some normal breaths. Maybe back off the length of time you're doing inhale, exhale, or back off how long you're doing the retention. It can be 1 second, it can be 5 seconds, whatever you sort of got. Last couple breaths just like that, practicing even samavritti, inhale, exhale, along with the hold, the retention at the top and at the bottom. Blink your eyes open for just a second. Hopefully you're doing all right. One more thing I want to add. So already, if you can even out the breath a little bit, this helps with calming. I know I automatically can kind of feel my body soften and settle. So it's not necessarily the goal to like count to 10 on the inhale, hold for 5 seconds. You do what your lungs can do. But to see if you can just sustain that for a minute or two. And then even more calming energy in yoga, they call this the downward moving energy, the apana. Sort of the energy that moves down, is to make your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. So for example, I might inhale for 4 seconds, pause, find that hold for 3, and then exhale for 7 or 8. So when you lengthen exhale, it's a more settling breath versus in contrast, if we were to lengthen inhale, have a shorter exhale, that would be like bring energy up. So like if you're about to do a really challenging vinyasa class, you might work with that. But in general, the settling breath is to lengthen the exhale only. I often will do this if I'm having trouble falling asleep, or if I wake up in the night and I can't fall back to sleep. So it really does help bring energy down. So I want to introduce this last little piece because I think now more than ever, we could all probably use some calming, settling. There's a reason Gabe and I have been offering lots of calming meditations and such, because we're feeling it too. So last little exercise, you can close your eyes again, sit comfortably. So we've introduced lots of terms. You will not be quizzed, so you don't have to ever remember the names, but don't think about counting, just find your ujjayi, your ocean, little slight constriction of the throat, breath. Just breathe normally with a little bit of constriction. Remember, where you can hear yourself. If someone was next to you, they could hear you, but a whole room of people wouldn't necessarily hear you. So just find that. As you find your little constriction, ujjayi pranayama, we'll introduce again the inhale count. So pick a count, a lower count. I'm going to do 4. You can do 3, 4, 5. And then we'll have that little pause at the top for a couple of seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and then exhale longer. So if I'm going to pick 4 for inhale, I'm going to start with 7 or 8 on the exhale. So whatever number you've got. So you inhale for a few seconds. Pause, and then exhale longer. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause 1,